So hello gentlemen and ladies, future criminologists and criminologists. This day I am about to discuss the biological theories. These biological theories is the continuation of the first three topics we had on the juvenile delinquency and crime prevention. So these biological theories are groups of theories which claim that physical appearance are somewhat one of the reason why is it that there are delinquencies or there are crimes in our community. This reveals, or these appearances of each individual reveals the character in a manner that criminals has distinctive physical characteristics or distinctive physical attributes or obvious physical characters that makes them identifiable as delinquents of criminal offenders. That these biological theories are just basing their explanation in the arrival or the occurrence of crime, or in this case delinquency, because of the physical characteristics of an individual or any obvious physical characteristics that makes them one of the reason in labeling them as one of those who commits crime and delinquency. So the biological theories that I will be discussing here today will be only the popular ones, which includes here the genetics theory, the somatotyping theory, the general inferiority theory, and then the Lombrosian theory or the Atavism theory. Okay, so to make this fast, the first topic will be on the Lombrosian theory. So what is this all about, Lombrosian theory? The Lombrosian theory was popularized by, of course, the father of modern criminology. What, as you can see there on the screen, is Cesare Lombroso, or the father of modern criminology. So instead of using this physiognomy, what else, and then social Darwinism, the degeneration theory, where he has tried to study first this one before he came up with this Lombrosian theory, or otherwise known as the anthropological criminology, or in some books they are familiarizing the word Atavism, or other books instead say it is the born criminal. Now, Lombroso's theory of anthropological criminology essentially stated that criminal was somewhat inherited, or somewhat being passed from one person to another, or from the offspring of one person to another, and that someone is what you call, in quote-unquote, born criminal, because this born criminal is not actually literally, okay, upon release of his mother to this baby, he is outrightly becoming a criminal. Now, someone born criminal could be identified by his physical or the congenital defects that we can see once the person has been brought to the earth by his mother. Now, which confirm a criminal as what you call this as atavistic. Now, let us try first to discuss this what you call as atavism. From a word Latin, which is familiarized by the French people to be atavus, which means ancestor, meaning to say that this word avus means grandfather, and it's believed that it is related to the word ata, which means daddy. So, or daddy. Atavism, term rooted in the evolutionary study referring to instances when an organism possessed traits closer to a more remote ancestor rather than its own parents. So that means you can see here, these days one might describe a building that looks like from the earlier era as an atavism. As an example, the old building before the years or before your fathers, but during the time of your grandfathers, those are example of atavism. So instead of getting these traits or traits from your parents or your direct father or biological mother, this word atavism tries to tell us that the early ancestors that you are behaving today are that you are trying to was inherited from your grandparents. Okay? So Cesar Cesare Lombroso tries to explain before that the reason of why a person becomes delinquent, or the reason why a person commits crime, is because he is representing a behavior that is an instinct of a primitive man, or the early types of people. Just like people before are allowing what you call as eating meat without being cooked properly, was the traits of the early primitive people, that if one person is doing that today, okay, that Cesare Lombroso is referring to these kinds of action as atavism. Okay, let us first know what is this work of Cesare Lombroso. Another work of Cesare Lombroso is the Anthropological Criminology, which is sometimes referred by common people as criminal anthropology. Well, it is literally the combination of the study of human species and the study of criminals. So, anthropology tries to tell us that this is the relationship between becoming or not becoming a criminal in relation to the study of your physical appearance, or in relation to the study of the appearance of the offender. Although this atavism is similar to physiognomy and phrenology, which we will be discussing it sooner or later, the term criminal anthropology is generally reserved for the work of this Cesare Lombroso, Enrico Ferri, and Raffaele Garofalo, and likewise the name of Lorenzo Tencini. Okay, Lorenzo Tencini was included by books as one of the contributors of this criminal anthropology. Now, Lombroso thought that criminals were born, which he said, or which he claimed that they were born with detectable inferior physiological differences. When you say physiological, this deals with the functions and activities of life of a living organism or living person, such as the organs, the tissues, and then our cells. Lombroso likewise popularized the notion of the word born criminal, and thought that criminal was a case of atavism. Then again, atavism talks about the heredity disposition, or the traits that we have inherited from our grandfathers or the primitive people. Now, his central idea was to locate crime completely. So, trying to locate crime completely within the individuals and divorce it from surrounding of social conditions and structures, because Cesare Lombroso did not believe that it is because of the society, it is because of the social conditions that occur. Why is it that in their place there are crimes? He does not believe that society or any structures within the environment is the reason why is it that there are crimes. He believed, therefore, that it is on the person himself. Now, through the years, the post-mortem examination and anthropometric studies of criminals, the insane, the individuals, Lombroso became convinced that there is really such word as this born criminal. I have read a book which Enrico Ferri termed this as Reyonato, or the born criminal, which could be anatomically defined or identified by such items as characterized by sloping forehead, ears of having unusual size, the asymmetry of a face, prognatism and excessive length of arms, and asymmetry of the cranium, and other physical stigmata are traits of becoming a criminal. Well, specific criminals such as thieves, rapists, and murderers could be distinguished by specific characteristics. Cesare Lombroso believed that he believed Well, Lombroso also maintained that criminals had less sensitivity to pain and touch. So, they also lack moral sense, including the absence of remorse, meaning to say they do not have their conscience. Yan, more vanity, impulsiveness, that according to Lombroso, vindictiveness and cruelty are other manifestations of becoming a criminal before. More so, he also tried to convince us that the more the excessive the use of tattooing will be, the more the characteristics of the criminal will be attributed to that person having more tattoo. Which today, we try to look at some of his claims are being used by individuals. Very weird to us for today because it is the modern area of study wherein basing your characteristics or basing your probability of becoming a criminal or not will be on your the asymmetry of your face, the length of your head, the cranium, or any physical stigmata that you are representing, which is the atavism as he claimed. Now, besides the born criminal, Lombroso also described criminaloids, occasional criminals, the criminals by passion, the moral imbeciles, and then the criminal epileptics. For him, for Lombroso, he recognized the division's role of organic factors such as the environment, opportunity, and poverty. There. So, concluding again for Lombroso that it is on the person himself, okay, the anthropometric measurements or the anthropological measurements or the anthropological structure or the physical structure of a man or a woman became the reason why is it that this person becomes a criminal, and not the environment, opportunity, and poverty being the reason of why there are delinquency. Let us try to see what did really Lombroso has done in this study. Well, Lombroso and his followers, Enrico Ferri and then Raffaele Garofalo, performed autopsies on criminals and on criminals in Italy and declared that they had discovered similarities between the physiologies or the physical structure of a man, of the bodies of those primitive humans such as monkeys and then on apes. Remember, this is Cesare Lombroso was once a fan of Darwinism, which tells us that humans are coming from your parents, monkeys, and then on apes. Or the findings actually are there were similarities on the receding of the foreheads, the height, the shape, and then the size of the shape and then size of its foreheads are the same with these primitive people, which are usually having the primitive characteristics of people. Lombroso therefore postulated the theory of born criminal based on these physical characteristics. In addition, he also declared that the female offenders was worse than the male, meaning the female are more prone to become criminals than the male counterpart, and they have distinct physical or masculine characteristics. Now, another thing that we should remember for Sir Cesare Lombroso, he outlined 14 physiognomic characteristics which he and his followers believed to be common to all criminals. So what are these physiognomic characteristics that he is mentioning? According to them, unusually short or unusually tall in height are more likely to become criminal, or a small head but large face are example of criminals for them. Fleshly lips, yan, thin but thin upper lip, yan, bumps on the head, the bumps of the head. What else? The back of the head and around the ear, wrinkles on the forehead and in the face, large sinus, ano pa ba? What else? Bumpy face, tattoos on the body, receding hairline, bumps. These are all the characteristics which Cesare Lombroso is trying to tell us as the characteristics of the criminal. Now, because of these findings, Lombroso published several works in their place or in Italy. One of the popular books that he has published is entitled as The Criminal Man, or in their term, L'uomo delinquente e home criminal. I do not know if I pronounce it correct. Now, when it comes to the notes that I am trying to when it comes to this lecture that I am trying to give, I usually send this via internet. So you could send me you could comment your emails there down. So I will be giving this sample PowerPoints for free. Now, I think let us proceed to the next topic. The general inferiority theory. The general inferiority theory is by Sir Ernest Hutton, who is an anthropologist before. So, this is fast. So, Ernest Hutton argued that criminals are somewhat inferior to civilians in nearly all of their bodily measurements. Remember, Ernest Hutton before is popular because according to research, this person is a racist. So becoming a racist before in America, there were a Cold War between being an African American or Black American from being a white American. That the book of Ernest Hutton tries to say that actually Hutton usually used to compare the anatomy and divide humanity up into races. The Hutton's case was developed describing the morphological characteristics of different primary races and other various subtypes. So according to him, the primary races are the white Americans, and then on the subtypes is these Black Americans, and on their place before, usually the American Association of Physical Anthropology on the committee of they have the word negro, which focus on the anatomy of black. So there was a group of there is this group of Sir Ernest Hutton who tried to study the black people, and he said that these black people, being inferior from the white Americans, are usually the person who become because of their characteristics, who become the people who usually commit crime before. Now, another thing that he had published is the physical anthropology to prove that the Negro race is genetically a closer approach to primitive man than the white race. You can see here that he always compare in general the Black Americans from the white Americans, because the white Americans, according to him, was better than the Black Americans. So, basing it from this story of Sir Ernest Hutton, he has concluded that people who usually, he has theorized that people, on his theory, it is stated that crime exists because there are inferiors, which are in their time before, these are the Black Americans who are responsible for the commission of the crime. So he said that those who are sneaky, little, and then constitutionally inferiors are usually thieves. And then another study that he has published is that the wiry, narrow, and then hard-bitten, tough, and notably undersized are usually those person who commits robbers. Now, criticism was of course, criticism will be present because of this activity that Hutton was criticized using circular logic when he ascribed the physical traits of criminal uh, people to cause criminality. That people before does not believe, or almost all people before during his time does not believe in his scholarly works. Third theory on the biological theory. The third theory on the biological theory is the somatotyping theory. Now, this somatotyping theory was advocated to us, was advocated by William Herbert Sheldon. So the idea of Sheldon is that the survival of the fittest. Okay, he believed that the inheritance was primary determinant of one's behavior and body physique was reliable indicator of one personality. So another person who tried to tell us that the body physique is one of the bases of becoming criminal or not is Sir William Sheldon. Now, Sir William Sheldon, being a psychologist, categorize the human physique, or when you say physique, human structures. Okay. According to him, the contribution of these three fundamental elements, which he termed it as the somatotypes, the classifying it and classify it as ectomorph, mesomorph, and then endomorph. Now, according to him, the ectomorph are these characterized by the skinny, weak, usually tall. He described this as intelligent, though gentle and calm, but self-conscious are introvert, and then anxious are the ectomorph. Now, mesomorph, as you can see on the illustration, are these hard, muscular, thick-skinned, good posture, competitive, extrovert, and tough are the mesomorph type. Endomorph type are characterized by fat, usually short, having difficulty of losing their weight, described as outgoing, friendly, happy, laid back, but also lazy and selfish are the endomorph. So you can see here that the ectomorph are usually the people who are thin. Mesomorph are the muscle type or athletic type, and then the endomorph are usually in our simple terms as the fat people. Now, this is stereotyping this is stereotyping actually. There may be some evidence that the different physique carry cultural stereotypes. So, as you can see here, ectomorph has their own characteristic, mesomorph has their own characteristics, endomorph has their own characteristics, which they represent. Now, according to one study, endomorphs are likely to perceived as sloppy, lazy. Mesomorph are, in contrast, they are typically popular and hardworking, whereas ectomorphs are viewed as intelligent, however, a fearful person. These are the body physique according to Sir William Sheldon. However, this body physique has their own temperament also. The temperament of the person are those choleric, melancholic, sanguine, and then phlegmatic are those persons which he correlated it with according to the body physique of the person. Now, temperament broadly refers to the consistent individual differences in behavior. So, says Sir William Sheldon, mentioned to us, or tried to tell us that there are behavior of people who are very different, okay, according to their own temperament. Now, however, criticisms before to Sir William Sheldon is that the idea of body type being an indicator of temperament or moral character or potential, while popular in atmosphere accepting the theories of eugenics, was latter criticism, however, was present during the time of Sir William Sheldon, because Sheldon's constitutional theory, or this somatotyping theory, was not a theory but all general assumption, of the continuity between structure and behavior and set descriptive concepts to measure physique and behavior in a skilled manner. Well, anyway, these are theories. These are not scientifically proven. But Sir William Sheldon before was very criticized because according to them, his books are usually falsified. However, for educational purposes on criminological examination purposes, Sir William Sheldon has tried to theorize that it is on the body physique being the reason of becoming a criminal or not. That's why we have the mesomorphic delinquency relationship that the mesomorph type are the usual person who are, according to Sir William Sheldon, those people who become or who has the possibility of becoming a delinquent. Maybe because they are athletic or muscle type, or they are the most brave person on the three categories as mentioned by Sir William Sheldon. Okay, the somatotyping theory was the same as the theory introduced by Ernest Kretschmer. What is this theory introduced by Kretschmer? Well, he likewise said that inheritance is the primary determinant of behavior, and inheritance of this body physique is a reliable indicator of the personality. Likewise, well, the endomorph of William Sheldon is the same as the picnic for Ernest Kretschmer, which these are the fat. The mesomorph or muscle type is the athletic type for Ernest Kretschmer, and then endomorph is the asthenic type for Ernest Kretschmer, or the thin type of body physique. They are the same when it comes to the theories of delinquency occurrences, but on the term that they use is the differences between the two. Okay, so the last theory or biological theory is the genetics theory. Now we know that the genetics theory states that people who have malgenetic or misad genetic structure or chromosomal activities within their body or within their chromosomes are usually the one that causes crime and delinquency. Another one on the claim of this genetics theory explains that behavior of a violent male has a chromosomal abnormality, which such males have an extra Y chromosome. Well, we know that the normal chromosome is the XY chromosome if we try to speak scientifically, but well, we are criminologists who doesn't want pure science. But to explain this, occurrence of an extra Y chromosome makes people super female, Superman, for example. But however, on this genetics theory, these are the causes of why there are crimes within our community. Okay? So again, the first four biological theories that I tried to discuss are the Lombrosian theory. There they have the Atavism, the general inferiority people, that people who are inferior to most people are the person who becomes criminal. Yan, somatotyping theory and then genetics theory. So please have your comments down for any topics that was not discussed properly, so I will be discussing them on another video. And then the next topic for next meeting will be the psychological theories of delinquency. So the psychological theories are usually based on the assumption that the causes of criminology is on the mind of the people. So thank you for listening. I hope I have helped and I have discussed this properly For any comments, kindly put them down. And then I hope you would subscribe for updated topics. And then thank you. Be safe and then good night.